We just took our first steps and it's really scary. That was really hard, but with every step it gets easier, I think. So, here we go. So we're heading to a warehouse where we're supposed to sleep with some homeless people. Apparently half the building's cool and the other half of the building has crackheads in it. That makes me very happy. I like crackheads a lot. I'd say I've had zero exposure to that. Heads up, put it down, Looking for Jeremiah.
Hold on. Oh, are you guys a guest? Yeah. From one to Africa?
Yeah, we're talking to Jeremiah.
Hey. Wake up. You're in paradise.
I guess in a nutshell, what we could say is that you were all sitting around one day and one of your friends says, "Why should I care about poor people in Africa?"
Your premise is to hitchhike across Africa and film what you find.
Yeah, the really interesting thing is we're actually also hitchhiking to Africa. We're going to start in St. Louis July 5th in the morning, hitchhike to New York. We're leaving about 8 days, and then we're taking a plane to London. We're hitchhiking across Europe from London to Athens, Greece, and then we're flying into Kenya.
None of us are extraordinarily talented people or rich people. We're just normal people.
The whole time we'll be living on $1.25 a day for food. So we'll be living in extreme poverty. They say 1.4 billion people live on $1.25 a day.
At what point do you give up? At what point in this trip, what would have to happen for you to turn back and say we're done?
Seems to me you probably don't know what you're up against. There is zero statistical probability you may come out of there without losing something.
I went with my church to the Kibera slum in Nairobi, Kenya, a place where the average person lives on about $1 a day. There are no paved roads, no indoor plumbing or sewage control, and the houses are made out of mud, sticks, and scrap metal. It was in many ways the Africa most of us only know from the infomercials. When I had returned home, I had it in my heart that I was going to be this passionate activist filmmaker. How is it that that many people are hungry, that many people are dying? How is it that that's not on our minds all the time, every day? If that was happening in our neighborhood, it'd end. If that was happening to my friends, I'd be doing everything I could to help them stay alive. I shared my concerns with my friend Rob, and as I imagined, Africa was nowhere on his radar.
Everyone says they care, but I just, they say they care, and then you ask them what they're doing about it, and the answer is nothing. And so, how is it any worse for me to be open about the fact that my life is more important than whatever else is going on? I think where I'm at is I'm being open about the fact that, yeah, I kind of idealistically care a little bit, but when it comes down to sacrificing my life for it, I don't give a damn.
But despite having varying opinions, I told him I was going to travel across Africa and go on a search to answer my questions about my responsibility to those living in extreme poverty. And for some reason, I invited him, and he decided to join me.
I just feel like in order to have a proper opinion on things, even though I don't feel like it's my problem, I need to see it for myself.
I knew if I was going to have Rob going along with me, I would need another activist who was down for anything. David was my man.
I'm pretty much up for almost anything, ever, especially if it's crazy and really adventurous. And so when he said hitchhiking, I was like, why didn't we think of this before? This is brilliant, let's do it!
And though Rob and David were complete opposites in so many ways, they were both two of the most off-the-wall people I knew, and it showed every time they got together. Like the time they let pigeons feast on David's flesh, or the time the two Midwestern boys discovered an orange tree. So the three of us are gonna head to Africa, asking the people we meet if they feel it's everyone's responsibility to do something about extreme poverty and what they think actually works. And to really dig into this issue, we were going to have to live it. So we decided we would live ourselves just on $1.25 a day, the world standard of extreme poverty. This is our story. That morning, we met Jeremiah, a former professor who now called this side of the building home.
Most of us are so bored in America that we don't know what to do. So we're easy prey for these cheap substitutes that we're trying to kind of get healthy adventure, healthy fun going again. I'm not a homeless or a derelict, I'm just a happy camper.
It's good coffee, bud. You have no idea how much this made my day. I thought I wasn't going to get coffee for 3 months.
You're probably asking yourself, I thought they were living on $1.25 a day, so how is he drinking coffee? Well, here are the rules we set up. The $1.25 would be for food, lodging, and transportation, not counting our plane flights between continents. And we weren't forced to give up items that we already had that were crucial for the trip, such as cell phones and camping gear. And we can receive gifts from strangers, but only if they offer, and only up to 1 full meal a day. And one strategy that would prove a lifesaver is combining our money and creating what we called peanut butter balls.
It's really easy to get balls. You just get the ingredients, peanut butter, oatmeal, all that stuff. You just kind of mash it in your hands and squish a little bit, and then you have a ball.
Our balls will help us make it through the trip.
And cheers the balls.
Maybe we don't know what we're doing when we come out to help homeless people. Maybe we should be asking questions instead of acting like we're the expert. You give a person a fish, you'll feed him for a day. If you teach him how to fish, you'll feed him for a lifetime.
My experience with people in poverty has been people trying to exploit the system and kind of begging for money when they don't need it. My view on poverty so far has been it's not my problem, especially people in Africa. It's like I need to take care of myself first. Do you think that it's everyone's responsibility to care?
To me, the challenge is how do you minister to the widows and orphans and not be found feeding thieves and bandits and criminals? But in my opinion, most of the people on the other end fall into that alcoholic, drug addict, thief category.
So after a great interview, Jeremiah took us over to the rougher side of the building.
This is Africa, right? In America.
After getting our first taste of American poverty, we headed across the bridge into East St. Louis.
I just had a lot of questions that I was kind of excited to have answered. Who would pick us up while hitchhiking, what we would eat, where we would sleep.
And I just remember that day being like the hottest day ever. Just thinking, what are we doing? This thing is just totally gonna fail. And then the next thing you know, I hear David screaming, "There's a truck! Hey, pull over! Hey, pull over!"
I feel like when we're moving, we're living. When we're sitting still, we're dying. It's like we're gonna cook in the heat, and then when we're moving, it's like we can do this.
Keeps making me reach for the far off, reach for the sky, reach for the hard rocks, reach deep inside.
I guarantee you guys, if you guys live off $1 a day and eat nothing, you guys will lose so much weight. Like your body will deteriorate.
I gotta reach. You don't even want to do it. You don't even want to do it. Yeah, I'm at home, grown man with a household, taking care of these angels that live here. This year
Very bad idea.
Given to the out of touch, evil men and outlaws. Gotta shout y'all to tell them that I'm about God. Pets on leashes, you'll get what you needed. Even illegal bookmakers are taking bets on Jesus. Fire insurance and brimstone coverage under their breath out in time is praying.
Once in life, someone has got to go out for adventure and also to learn. On your way to Africa, I would give you a short message. Go, see, learn, come back, teach others.
Still praying for peace. The date of my release, it keeps making me reach for the far off, reach for the sky, reach for the hard rocks, reach deep inside. I gotta reach, gotta give, gotta sacrifice. I gotta reach, gotta act, gotta fight. Reach far beyond me, reach for the sky, reach for the heartbeat, reach deep inside. I gotta reach.
With the White House in the background, we interviewed Reagan Demas, who had spent many years working for one of the largest organizations trying to fight injustice in Africa.
Africans are too often viewed as weak, poor, helpless, and really they're not. I mean, there are incredibly intelligent, smart, totally capable people in Africa that really are waiting for nothing more than a chance or an opportunity to get that last bit of knowledge they need to just flourish and to start their own entity and group.
We proposed our dilemma of comparing extreme poverty against American poverty to him.
I think the biggest difference is our health, the physical health. We'll drink water that is clean, and even Washington, D.C., which has pretty dirty pipes, I can drink out of the pipes here.
To really do it, we'd have to cut our health insurance, cut our med-evac plan, start drinking dirty water.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys probably have health insurance. I'd yell at you if you don't, right? I mean, you'd be dumb not to have it.
Reagan was just reiterating what we had already realized, that because of where we grew up, we really couldn't recreate poverty. Though our journey thus far had been difficult and not up to our usual comforts, we had stayed in abandoned buildings with couches and a comfortable room in a homeless shelter. And if we couldn't experience American poverty, how much more difficult would it be for us to try and experience extreme poverty? This is practically unattainable in a country with incredible hospitals, the eradication of killer diseases like malaria, access to abundant clean running water, and government safety nets.
That may be the ultimate story, that you realize that you're so blessed that you can't even recreate this situation.
We tried to hitchhike. We even stopped at this poster store and bought these sweet poster things and wrote the city name and then walked for hours and hours and miles, and no one even gave us a second glance because I think their cars are half our size. There's no way I'm fitting 3 dudes with 3 bags in my car, so I'm just gonna keep driving. So we're just all right, we gotta do something else because this isn't working.
At that point, we realized we would never make it to our interviews or our plane in time if we solely relied on hitchhiking in Europe. So we had to cut the transportation out of the $1.25 and decided to take trains the rest of the way. We set out for Canterbury to interview my old professor, Dr. Voss, who had played a major role in my views on poverty. So how important do you think this question of what causes poverty or what makes some countries rich and some poor, how important do you think that question is?
This is a very important question because it determines how nations live together. It determines very often peace and war. It also determines the future of humanity. Equality between nations, especially since we're much more interconnected, becomes much more important than in former times.
Where do you feel like this is on our priority level, addressing this issue of poverty?
Top priority of many wealthy nations at least is job security, national security, and wealth maintaining. We need to push up other issues which concern the whole global community.
What Dr. Voss said really hit home for me. I always see those bumper stickers that say, "God bless the USA." And I always think to myself, why just the USA? Why not the rest of the world? Africa, Asia, Latin America? I really think with how our world's becoming more globalized, is also changing who is becoming our neighbor. We left there and were hoping to catch a ferry across the English Channel to France, but found out we were too late and would have to find a place to sleep for the night, something Rob was not looking forward to.
There were so many underlying issues with me and David the entire time where we'd just be constantly butting heads about making decisions. I always felt like I had to be the responsible one and David was just there to enjoy himself. I think it's been building up a little bit because usually the ideas that have been coming up from you or maybe Dan shoots out and then you do it, you're immediately, no thought into it, let's do it, that'll be great.
Yeah, maybe I am too far on the lax and laid back and free spirit attitude, but I have faith in Jesus Christ.
Coming from the atheist viewpoint on that, where all that just, oh, God's taking care of me, so I'm fine, I think it's horseshit. And I respect your religion, I respect everything about that, but no one is taking care of us.
I see you stress out so much, and so it makes me want to be more laid back so that you see Like, I just want to prove to you that, like, things are working out, and so you don't have to be so stressed.
We both kind of met in the middle a little bit, but I didn't feel like we resolved anything. I think we just got everything out on the table, and that in itself just helped.
We had nowhere to stay when we arrived in Geneva, but at the last minute, scored a place through couchsurfing.com.
We are going to the entrance of the United Nations. We thought it'd be kind of funny if we begged. Change. I just need change, sorry. Wow, she was gonna pick me up and drive me somewhere. Please, just a little bit. 1 franc, maybe? Just a little change. Unite the nations. I'm stranded. This is not working. Ooh, she almost wiped out. I need to be on the other side of the street. Stranded. I'm stranded. 1 franc. There's definitely a level of shame involved in poverty, and just being out there begging, you could definitely feel that, and people just trying to avoid your eyes. Mother Teresa says it's fashionable to talk about the poor, but it's not so fashionable to actually talk with the poor. Frank? No? Hello? How are you?
Fine, and you?
I thought what better place than the United Nations to find help. Turns out panhandling is illegal, which would have been good to know before we started, but luckily the cops just let me go by telling me that they never wanted to see me out there again.
While in Geneva, we had some incredible opportunities. We met with the ambassador of Rwanda and also a representative from the Global Fund, which is the largest organization on the planet fighting HIV, TB, and malaria.
Within your lifetime, it is perfectly conceivable for all these diseases to be beaten. It doesn't mean they'll entirely disappear, but they can basically be eliminated as major public health challenges in practically all countries in the world. This is something that is achievable, that we can do.
And we even went to the United Nations, entering in the same exact place that David had begged in. We got a chance to interview some of the heads of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, also known as the UNCTAD.
Poverty is always one of the window of entry for terrorism and security everywhere.
The interviews were so impactful that they overshadowed our hunger until we could scavenge for food that night.
Oh, look at that celery. You got a soup there, you've got a stuff.
Some broccoli?
Oh, for sure.
Want to grab those?
Oh, this is brilliant.
Oh,
that's disgusting.
That's pretty gross.
Pretty good fire,
yeah, you actually burn more eating it than you do getting.
No. That smell's making me a bit nauseous.
So we're just gonna wash those off and
Cook them. You can cook them. There's some more celery right there.
Are they thicker?
Yeah, these are a lot better. Just kind of smells like dirt. It's not bad.
You came from that right?
It's going to be tasty.
nothing's gonna kill us.
Nothing's gonna kill you. It's all like vegetable.
From Geneva, we went through Venice, where we slept in a park that we later found out was a gay meetup spot. And this was only after Rob was hit on.
Eventually it came out that I had a girlfriend and I wasn't really looking for that, but you know, it wasn't any like, oh no, it's a good time. We just talked. It was fun, but it was very tense and I thought I was gonna have to mace someone really quick last night.
When we reached Belgrade, we could see slums on the outskirts and buildings blown up by NATO. We took a quick walk around the city and then hopped a bus 2 hours north to Novi Sad, Serbia to meet up with our friend Veda. She told us that if we wanted to interact with poverty in Serbia, and Eastern Europe for that matter, then we wanted to interact with the Roma people, otherwise known as gypsies.
Basically, they're like the marginalized group in Serbia. They're very poor and basically they have no IDs and they don't really exist, but still they do. So they're like our local recyclers who are scavenging for food and anything they can find. I sometimes feel kind of scared of them, so I have to admit that I don't really try to make friends with them. I kind of, when I see them, I try to stay away just because I don't think I can help them enough for them to be very nice to me.
The night before, we had asked her to take us to a slum, but she quickly refused. Today, she compromised and agreed to take us to a local Roma market.
When you go into them, like everybody's looking at you like you're an alien, and you just know that you're just not welcome.
While we were at the market, someone overheard us talking about visiting a Roma slum. They told us where one was and that we could just walk in and ask for the president by name. We found out that they were in fact not Roma or Gypsies, but the Ashkali people. The Ashkali were a people group from Old Persia that came to Serbia in 700 AD and have been fighting for their rights ever since. These people in particular had come from the war in Kosovo.
They're very nice, they're very polite people.
Oni ne mogu da se vrate na Kosovo jer su im spaljene kuće.
They can't go back to Kosovo because their house is burned down.
I ako ovo ne rade, onda nemaju ni kako da užive drugačije.
And if they don't do this, they will not survive.
Što
Everything
prodaju
that you
kupuju?
see around, it's sort of a ghetto, and there are no licenses for anything that is built or sold here.
Iz klozet je to, WC.
Oh, so that's the toilet?
Da.
It's basically mud. The houses are made of.
Hajde.
Most importantly, he wanted to introduce us to the youth of his slum.
Revzija. Aferdita.
He says that young people are the one who should make a difference because they have this energy.
Ambitious young people.
They should be ambitious enough
people,
to do those things and to persuade older people to help poor people like them. That's the radio station.
He had DJs on the radio announce that young Americans had come to their village to help find solutions for their poverty. And it was humbling for us because all we had done was shown up and talked. We ended the day with some orange juice and coffee at the president's home as he tried to convince Rob that Allah wanted to use him to help the village.
Well, at first I was really scared until we found that guy who is the president of the village. A big part of my prejudice has changed towards them. Just by listening to what their real problems were, and just by understanding and seeing it by my own eyes. I was thinking of a way to help them build some ecological houses and help them through architecture, which I do. Now that I've really seen it, even that idea has become evolving in my head, and I feel like I have this education that these people aren't even able to get because they're too poor to feed themselves. I made a step in my own head, like I feel like I'm just somehow fulfilled. If not, I think we changed their day just by being there and telling them that we care. And that's what they said as well, so.
It was incredible to hear Veda talk like this because it represented our entire mission for this project, to connect young people, to connect those who need something to live for with those who just need something to live. And it was unfolding right there in front of us.
It was like a very, very big coincidence, or was it coincidence? That's maybe the real question.
I don't believe in that Jesus nonsense.
I don't believe in God, but that was just a lot of coincidence. You have to admit.
There's a lot of that on this
that
trip,
was a
and I'm
lot
like,
of coincidence.
nope, no God, give me my bread.
He'll just keep showing up until you realize it or not. It doesn't matter. He's there either way. He's there no matter what.
Sent by God, so I don't know.
Just don't want to be here anymore, man. I've wanted to be here the entire time, and like with every day, I get more and more homesick, and I just get tired of just not eating and trying to push ourselves. It's like, hey, let's go sleep in the streets. And I knew that was going to happen because I haven't wanted to do this the entire time. I just kind of did it just to do it. I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up. I'm still here. It's just miss my girlfriend, miss playing Nintendo.
What about the gypsy thing yesterday and how cool that was?
Yeah, that's cool. Hanging out with gypsies, like, it was interesting, but I don't know. Like, even when we were sitting on the couch, I'm like, man, I'm tired of this shit. Like, no one's forcing me to do this, and I think that's the thing, is I don't really have any motivation really pushing me. Like,
I'm not really going to save Africa, pretty much. I'm just going to make sure you two get here, you know?
Part of me doesn't want to be here either, you know, just like not getting great sleep and having a little bit of headache and being hot and being hungry and, you know, being bored even. But I guess when Rob has a negative attitude, it just like makes me be negative.
I haven't been too negative though.
I don't know.
I think all in all I've been pretty positive about all this bullshit.
We still have so much more to go, so it's like, I'd rather be feeling like this 7 weeks from now than now. Probably be doing a lot worse sometime in the next few weeks.
Thinking like there's really nothing inside of me that doesn't want to be a part of this trip and be right here, right now, in this moment. I love challenge. I love things that are difficult because I see.
As I cut you off, David, we probably should pack
gotta
your
go.
stuff up.
Athens would be our last city before flying out of Europe, and Rob's last chance to back out of going to Africa. Our last night there, the pastor of the church whose floor we were sleeping on just said he had some words of caution before we left Europe the next day.
What do you think will happen to you when you land in Africa and you stroll around, 3 white men, obviously strangers in the land, and people see you? What do you think is the first thing that will be in their minds? Some of the instances which are known is somebody liked somebody's watch, he didn't ask for it. He suddenly saw his hand cut off so that the other guy could take the part with the expensive watch. It seems to me you probably don't know what you're up against. Some of them would kill you for those shoes. There is 0 statistical probability you may come out of there without losing something. They don't have them. They can't get them. You might be the only chance in their life for them to get their hands on something like that. So what do you think is going to happen?
I'm already scared shitless, so I really didn't need to hear all that. Because now I just don't want to go at all.
I'm not sure why he was saying all this stuff. Just 100 of the people that are praying over us is, I think, very empowering.
I've been through the United States. I've been through Europe. It sucked real bad. Thought I was going to die in every single state and country we've been in so far. And we made it through it. And now we're going to go where we're most likely to actually die. But David thinks we're fine. But I think there's a chance that I can get something really good out of this. And I, not even like selfishly, but I think that we can make a difference in this trip, even in a small way.
I think there's fear to be had everywhere, and I think there is extra fear in Africa because there's more poverty. When you find more poverty, you find more crime.
And I think that's what's really scared me about all you guys, or you two, just kind of being like, let's keep doing crazy shit. Let's go sleep on the streets. Let's go wrestle with alligators. We're wearing like badger hats and shit.
You make it sound like someone suggests something. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. You know, but normally I'm the one that like, hey, what if we did this? And then your guys are kind of like, no. And Dan's like, And I'm like, yeah, we should do it. Convince Rob. You know?
People hear stuff like that guy said tonight about all this fear and all this stuff, and people like cutting your actual arm off. And that's why nobody goes to Africa, and that's why nothing ever changes, because everybody's filled with so much fear about actually making a difference.
You're optimistic. I'm just thinking, what if people actually chop your hands off for your shit? And I'm hearing like, no deal, not going.
I think it's more dangerous than everywhere we've been, but at the same time, I think it's not get your arms and your legs cut off dangerous.
We all stayed up most of the night pondering what the next few months had in store for us. It was a cool summer night when we landed in Nairobi and were greeted by our cameraman Tim, David's older brother. Tim flew over to help us with filming. He shares David's thirst for adventure. Like Rob, this would be his chance to discover what his responsibility was to those living in extreme poverty. Once in the car, Tim gave his thoughts on Africa as Rob stared apprehensively out the window and David gleamed with excitement about the adventure ahead. This is Tony right here. What's up, man? I met Tony my first trip in Africa in 2005, and I told him for the last 4 years that he would help me make a film about Kibera, the slum he lived in.
Welcome to Africa. Okay, the first thing, if you are to buy things, they'll sell for you expensive. So if you have a local guy, you better send them. It's somehow dangerous if you start showing off what you have. But if you're cool, if you mingle with people freely, and if you keep your things tightly packed, nobody will mess with you. If somebody might get a chance to make their lives better with one of you, they will.
Just grab it.
Do they pull a knife or?
A gun. Most in Kibera, they have guns. You're not supposed to be so much afraid. I have the guns.
No, like it's just like, we've been on our own for like 3 weeks. And just, that's just how I am, you know?
I'm not giving out money. If you give one, word will spread you're giving out money. You'll have a crowd. Some don't eat, some starve. The houses are
I
poor.
wonder if you think there's a lot of people in Kibera that go hungry?
Most people go hungry. Yeah. They either eat once a meal per day.
See, Kibera had a huge significance in this story. Kibera was the first and only place I'd ever been in Africa, and the place that made me wonder, what was my responsibility to the poor? The first thing any Westerner mentions when they talk about Kibera is the welcome from the kids, especially their 3 favorite English words. Kibera has always been considered illegal squatter land by the government, even though it is inhabited by an estimated 1/3 of Nairobi's 3 million citizens. So there are no paved roads,
flip-flops,
wild animals are roaming freely, and the houses are made out of mud, sticks, and scrap.
Hit my eye on one of these, and I'm not going to be happy.
And of course, we were going to stay the night in one.
Are you saying one of us stay here in your place if we stay?
No problem.
That must be me.
Really?
Just because I was so, like, it would be a big deal, you know?
Yeah.
I would do it if...
What would you do? Just share a bed?
No
problem.
No funny business, though, right?
When do you get power?
In the evening.
In the evening? Why only in the evening?
Connections.
It is not legal
We
connection.
still.
Oh, okay. I mean, you basically have to steal because you don't have any option to have electricity, right?
Last of all, the main culprit of the smell is the lack of indoor plumbing. We spent the day soaking in the sights and sounds of the slum, getting pinched and tackled by children, and interviewing various individuals inside the slum, and getting a general feeling of what it was like to live there. One thing was clear, this was not the same Africa we know only through the infomercials. I was especially curious how this day had affected Rob.
I was really impressed with Kibera, you know, like, everyone I've talked to just said it's really sad and stuff, but I didn't really see the sadness. This trip's made me appreciate that. I was very impressed with how well organized, not organized, but it was functional, very functional, you know. And people seemed happy. I said I could live there, you know, other than sticking out real bad. I saw it in a very positive light.
Alright, I got a question. At what point do you give up? At what point in this trip, what would have to happen for you to turn back and say we're done?
I mean, I guess if any of us end up in the hospital for more than a couple days, or just, you know, just completely sick for more than like 3 or 4 days, I think.
Are you scared?
Yeah, I'm really scared.
Muzongo TV.
About to hop in the plane. Some shots of Kibera. This is our pilot, Frank.
This is Ryan, sorry. He's one of our mechanics.
It was just a short 30-minute flight, but Rob was always a little bit anxious about planes. But after a few minutes, he started to actually enjoy himself.
As soon as we took off, like, it felt like I was on a roller coaster and I couldn't help but just start smiling my ass off. It was just so much fun just taking off and everything and hanging out the door, getting all that footage, and then we saw some animals down below, which is the first wildlife we'd seen in Africa.
Kibera looks so vast, and it was just, you know, in some ways such a hard sight to see, but in such ways such a beautiful sight to see, all the different textures and colors of the slum.
Did 3 passes, and then All of a sudden we started to get lower, and before we took off, the pilot had told us that he was going to do something that enabled us to get better shots, whether it's slow the engine down. I didn't really understand exactly, and so when we started losing altitude and the engine started slowing down, I thought that's what he was doing, so I wasn't worried about it. I was just like, wow, this is great shots.
One of the African guides with us got a phone call and turns around and says, the plane crashed. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, are they okay? Good, bad, not so good? Like, give me something at all. Just tell me.
Two St. Louis filmmakers lived through a deadly plane crash in Africa.
When their single-engine Cessna crashed into a building and burst into flames.
Paris, pictured on the left, and Lair on the right, were flying over a slum near Nairobi when their plane went down.
There was that moment of, oh my God, this is bad, and then 2 seconds later, which felt like an eternity, we hit the power lines.
Bam, 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 bam. Just like we hit everything. It was like a roller coaster going off the tracks and just banging up against walls.
I opened my eyes and realized I was upside down. There's blood pouring down my face. There's fire around me. I have to get out of here. When I got out in probably 10 seconds, but it felt like forever.
And I remember waking up, and because I was hanging upside down, I felt like I was paralyzed. I felt like I couldn't move my legs.
And I got out and I looked back and there was no one else getting out, no one else moving. So I looked away and then I looked back at the plane again and I basically thought, what you do right now matters.
Next thing I know, Rob was waking me up and he's like, the plane is on fire. The plane is on fire. You gotta get out. You gotta get out of here. And I'm just freaking out. And I look back and I turn around behind me and I just see flames coming in my direction.
He got out, walked out, and then I looked back again and then Frank and Ryan had not got out. And I said the same inner thing, like what you do right now matters. You're going back in there. And by that time, the fire was really starting to get bad.
And I look over and I watch Rob just like run into the plane once. And then he like runs back out and he kind of just stares at a second, and then he's about to take off again.
I crawled back in and I remember seeing Ryan. He was strapped upside down too. And so I just start grabbing for a seatbelt. He's upside down, all his weight's holding that glass together. And I finally got it off. Right as I did, all the fire came up and just started burning my arm, and then my leg caught on fire. And so just instinctually, I just backed out of the plane for a second. And then as soon as I backed out, I planned on going back in, like, I don't know how, but just doing whatever it took. Somebody grabbed me and just pulled me away, and I just started screaming, like, we have to go back, we have to go back.
The next thing I know, these two African guys are just driving us to the hospital. And they get on the highway, but they get on the wrong side of the highway. So next thing you know, we're driving like 50, 60 miles an hour on the wrong side of the highway, and cars are just swerving in and out of the way of us.
And me and Dan just survived the worst thing that's ever happened to us, and then now we have been thrown into the second worst thing that's ever happened to us, is driving the wrong way in traffic.
I was obviously, scared out of my mind for the lives of my friends, and just prayer was what I went to.
We made it to the hospital, and Rob jumped on the stretcher first. He was just kind of flipping out and freaking out and yelling the whole time.
I saw Dan over there, and he was in a lot worse condition than me, so I decided to take my neck brace off, take the thing that they put on my arm off, and say, don't work on me until you get Dan taken care of.
I could just like barely walk, barely stand up, and just made my way to a stretcher. And then I remember just for like the next 9 or 10 hours, just strapped down with a neck brace on, and all I could see was the ceiling, and like people would come up above me and just like look at me like just kind of freaked out.
I walked over to him and I pulled out my phone and I just started filming, and we just talked, and Dan recalled the event and I started crying, and I think we both cried.
Like constant pain, just a good steady pain in my lower back. I don't want to move and I can't stop thinking about it. But I think I'm gonna be okay. We were out trying to get the guy, but he didn't come out, and 2 people dragged us. And I figured there were so many people there that those guys would be helped by somebody who could actually move, and I wasn't freaking out. I hope they could help.
It was incredible to see my friends alive, I would definitely say.
I remember David come over and holding my hand and me crying as I talked to him.
I leaned over Dan, I grabbed his hand, and just met his eyes. He couldn't really look down or around too much, so I just got right over him. So I wanted him to know, and that I was just there for him, and I would do anything for him. Like I was just there, just to hear everything they had to say, to be there for him, so that he knew that I was there for him no matter what. Right there in that moment, and I would do nothing else. Nothing else mattered at all other than him. I just wanted him to feel that comfort.
And I was like, this is when I die. But I was gonna die.
The pilot of the plane was an American who did missionary work. He was killed in the crash.
This guy, he was 35 years old. 4 kids. And a wife.
The family emails us hoping that his death is not in vain.
Right now, the project is delayed, but the families say it will continue.
So what does it take to make a difference? For us, it almost took everything. Because of the crash, Rob had to get 6 stitches in his head and had several burns all over his body. I was a good bit worse with a compression fracture in my back, a broken collarbone, and unknown intestinal injuries. We were both alive though, but unfortunately neither Frank the pilot nor Ryan the mechanic ended up surviving.
I remember hearing that Frank had passed away, and then I remember a week later hearing that Ryan had passed away and just crying right there, just thinking 2 of us lived, 2 of us died. Why us 2?
And I just knew right then this is going to affect you in ways that you're not even going to imagine.
He spent the next few days in the hospital, but eventually had to leave.
It sucked to leave Dan, but I just knew for my own mental health that I had to go.
After Rob left the hospital, I spent another week there in lots of pain. For several days I could not go to the bathroom, and then for several days I could not stop. I had to slowly start walking off my back injury and got out of the hospital as soon as I felt like I could walk on my own.
Pretty good, man.
Hey.
I spent 5 days in the hospital in the US, and it seemed like they had fixed my problem and I started to have normal bowel movements.
Only issues I've had so far was on the plane, get taken off and landing.
Yeah, it's kind of little things, but they put me on edge really bad and put me in a really bad mood.
Are you still taking new medicine or anything?
Yeah, I can't sleep without my Xanax. I'm not even gonna try. Because I'll just have I have little anxiety attacks constantly.
So after I got home from Africa, everything was just a little bit off. Driving in a car just set me off. Seeing planes set me off, seeing fire set me off. I just was on edge constantly for about a couple weeks. And for a while, I just didn't know how to handle it, and so I pretty much turned into a recluse and just backed away from the world.
Before leaving the hospital in Africa, we all agreed that instead of postponing the journey, David and Tim would continue our planned path through Africa and keep living on $1.25 a day for the next 2 months. Through first-hand experience, they would explore their responsibility to the poor and learn about the causes and solutions to fighting extreme poverty.
Hey, David!
People dying, animals are dying, everything is perished. Yeah, everything a big problem. It is a big hell. A big hell.
Would you say that someone living in poverty, would you say that clean water is the first thing that they need in order to start advancing their life? Very first thing.
Very fast. Water will be the very fast.
Before this well, how long would you have to go to get water? How far?
8 kilometers.
Did it ever make you or your children sick?
Yes, diarrhea, coughing, and other diseases.
Very often?
Every time. I take time to sit with my children, not wasting time of going to the river.
You know, when most Americans think of poverty, they think of this terrible, awful thing and just people suffering and living in despair and just totally hopeless. You go to Africa and you meet the people who are living in extreme poverty. Their sense of contentment, their sense of interconnectedness with each other, the way that they interact and just the love that they have for each other, and then how they just invite you into that. It's just one of the most inspiring things that I think I could ever experience in my life.
You find many people are very poor, but still they are very happy, full of a smile like me.
One of the things that I have had the opportunity to witness here in Africa is oftentimes some very poor people and very needy people that I meet are still happy people. And it's an amazing contrast in terms of what their needs are and what their attitude about life is. And yet I have heard that same thing being said on one occasion by a very wealthy man that I flew out here. And he said to me, you know, I have all this money and I'm not very happy, but I see these people and they're in poverty and they're happy. And the way he used that phrase was almost as an excuse. I don't really need to help these people because in spite of how poor they are, they're still happy people. Instead of recognizing their great need, he recognized something that they had that he didn't, and he used that to absolve himself of any guilt of helping those people. And I thought, what a tragedy, because here he's got the opportunity to learn something from them, to invest in their lives, to be part of that same joy that they have, and yet to be helping them in their lives. And he used that instead of as an excuse.
Back at home, for the first few weeks, it seemed like I was getting much better. But then in a couple of weeks, I was back in the hospital. It seemed like the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I had multiple colonoscopies, CAT scans, and other tests.
This is my 4th tube up my butt. I think the 6th object up my butt.
I obviously had the broken collarbone, back, and finger, but the internal injuries they could not nail down. In between each visit to the hospital for those next couple of months, I would spend days in the bed cringing with pain. I visited all types of doctors and chiropractors and lost nearly all my weight. It was a miserable time where I felt completely useless. Meanwhile, Rob continued to struggle with post-traumatic stress for several months, but found solace in video games and what he considered to be his form of worship, hunting.
Even though I was getting better, I knew that I'd never fully be better until I knew Dan was going to be okay, and once we figured out all the stuff with his stomach issues.
We actually each spent less than $1.25. Down here you'll see what we bought. We got some oil for cooking, some bread, beans and rice, garlic, a few vegetables. This is tea, salt is essential, some flavoring. All this was maybe $2. We went to like 5 restaurants and we sat down and looked through the menu and then had to apologize and say, sorry, we can't afford this. And everyone looks at us like we're crazy, like, what, you can't afford $3? We're like, no.
So I've pretty much gotten used to being hungry all the time, for the most part. We're eating like one kind of full meal a day.
One night in Kampala, David spoke with Grace, the woman appointed as their cook.
Getting rid of poverty has to start with us here as Africans. Yeah.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah, it has to start here because if we don't, even if someone comes in, to still remain because it is going to become a habit.
This went along with what many people had said to him on his journey.
But if you just come and ask, what we want here to help you, this and this, nobody will say no. Even the rich man will say, yes, we are poor, we are struggling, and they get that money. That's not the right way. And we have seen many organizations in the West, they do that. And it's not very effective. Effectivity comes from coming to the people who are dealing directly with the needs. and they are able to identify them even without knowing there is money. And now when money comes, they are always working with people and they know the needs in their daily lives, even without the Western support. So when Western support is like partners in what we are doing to help our own people. And we are really thankful for that.
There are a lot of other deeper issues involved in giving out aid. Dependency and the way that giving things away free creates dependency, and the way that that dependency holds people in a position of poverty for years and years and years that they can't break out of because the aid is given in the wrong way.
If you give a person money today only, not skills, it can't help. But if you can invest in those people, it can be great.
So I think we need an approach that would help people to see their dignity, to see what they have. And then let's come together. Those who have the knowledge, those who have the skills, those who have the technology, let's bring it together.
In my mind, I had an idea of, what I wanted to experience in Africa. And Grace was kind of meeting her and then hearing the story of the orphans that she takes care of and then going to see them in their village was kind of the first time where I was like, this is what I came for.
That is very interesting. And this is the food. So those are sweet potatoes.
What is that?
That is called kalo. It's very cassava kalo.
3 days old?
Yeah.
And she gave birth right here in this hut?
Yeah, in this house. And this is how we Africans do things.
Sitting in this village with no electricity, no running water, just practically nothing. And I was sitting there looking at the moon and just realized this is exactly what I wanted to experience. And I'm here and I'm living it right now.
For them to understand is to be like you, to come here on the ground and see things and interview us. But the best thing was him to come and see the people and walk with the people and live with the people and talk to the people. I know he'll be a transformed person, especially not in the good hotels, right in our homes.
Yeah.
Use our pit latrines and go to the well to fetch water if it is an American woman. Then they can feel what life in Africa is.
David, how are you?
How are you?
I'm fine. You look nice and you behave like African. Yes, you behave like African.
I behave like an African.
Wow, that's what I see.
America is an extremely comfortable nation. Extremely comfortable. We have every convenience that you could imagine. That's great in many ways, but it also can hinder, I think, because it becomes expected and it becomes what's normal. And, 85% probably of the world does not live that way.
Does she consider herself living in poverty?
She has no thought about, living in poverty.
This is just normal living?
Yeah, it is a normal living.
How many white people have come here and eaten their food, eaten with them?
They're saying ever since they left the camp, none of the whites has ever come here. So you are the first.
I'm the first.
And might be the last, you never know.
Everyone tells you not to go there. Every travel warning, restriction, everything was don't go into the Congo, but we went anyway.
Those who want to help Africa, they should very much focus on developing intra-African infrastructure. Roads, railways, electricity.
We came up to a city of about 700,000 people. There was no running water in the whole city. There's also no electricity at all.
Very, very bad roads connecting, let's say, two countries.
the infrastructure isn't here. So there are a lot of potholes on the dirty roads in the Congo.
Sometimes it takes days to move from a market to another market in the neighboring country.
It's not easy to get just goods into, on big tractors into these cities, and so they just have to live on the bare essentials.
From the countryside.
We drove hours and hours, and we stopped a couple times just in the smaller cities, and we even stopped for a church service that some other pygmies had come and met us. We had to kind of stop in these cities on the way and just met all of these government officials that openly welcomed us. Just on our way out into the bush of Africa, into this pygmy village. I mean, hours and hours just of jungle, and leaves and sticks and branches were, rubbing up against the side of the car. As we're pulling in to this little clearing of these little kind of wood structures and mud structures and these leaf structures, it was just cool to see the same level of anticipation on them, like, wow, we have American visitors in our village, and we're just like, whoa, we're Americans, we're going to this village, like just how it was kind of equally reciprocated.
Like from India.
I mean, it was National Geographic at its best, like just the little smoke fires coming out of like the chimneys of these wooden structures, and people just sitting down cooking food and sharpening these arrows for these bows. Dang, you see that? One guy just loved that we were there asking questions, because he did find the importance in really understanding what needed to be done, like community by community.
3 children and father, mother, this place.
So 5 in this hut.
They saw an importance in medical care and education was the 2 things that they really asked us if we were able to help them. They said that would be the thing that they needed the most. We were on the train for over 60 hours once because it broke down. So we pull up into these villages, and these women from the village will bring tons of food and set up these stalls of like everything, chicken and fish and these things called samosas.
Dang. Dude, look at this. It's a freaking chicken right there. So today I only ate 2 pieces of bread, a little thing of peanut butter that we found, which is awesome. They like crush up the peanuts. It's about 200 shillings, and then I ate a carrot, which was 200 shillings, and then I ate 1/4 of an avocado. Me and Tim had a 1/4 each.
So living on $1.25 a day for an extended period of time in Africa for about 2 months, I mean, always feeling the sensation of hunger, never really feeling like you were fully satisfied. It's crazy how much kind of mental hope almost you put into food, and just kind of waking up not knowing what you'll be able to eat, and then also knowing that you won't be satisfied with then what you get to eat, being tired and having a headache, people living in extreme poverty when they have to take care of their children and get a job, kind of carrying that hunger around with them.
Simu yangu iko kule.
This is pemba. It's dirt that the people eat. Tastes like dirt. All the kids like it. Oh.
It's bad?
Yeah. It's dirt. I'm eating dirt right now.
Why?
It's what pregnant women eat to get minerals. And you eat it for your appendix, supposedly. Oh, stop.
I eventually got down to 115 pounds, 43 pounds less than when I left for Africa. Ironically, I looked like someone starving in extreme poverty. Here I was, trying to make a film about me living in extreme poverty, thought I'd be in Africa, and that to find myself living in my parents' house, sick all the time, you know, not doing anything, feeling like half of a human being and really providing nothing to society. I really got what I asked for. It wasn't fun at all. It was pretty much the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. And since the mainline doctors had not figured anything out, I started visiting other alternative doctors and using other alternative methods.
How many times do you go to the bathroom a day?
I haven't had a normal poop in like 2 weeks.
At this point, I've been trying for a way out through what is called a pill cam test. A pill cam test is where you swallow this giant pill that takes a picture of your intestines and sends it back to a wireless hard drive attached to you.
I don't need to look at that. Lord Jesus, pray over this pill.
As they were getting the results and taking x-rays to see if the pill had passed through, I started realizing some things. Because I had health insurance, I could go to so many different doctors and do all these different kinds of tests. And just what it would have been like if I would have been someone living in extreme poverty in the world, there maybe been one doctor, and if he didn't get it, then I might have just been out of luck, or I might not have been able to get the CAT scans or the colonoscopies, and I just would have dreamt of the possibility of knowing what that would have been like to find out what was wrong with me.
For 3 months, I just existed. Nothing more, nothing less, I just existed. And the only thing that really made it better was playing video games and just distracting myself as much as I possibly could. For 8-10 hours at a time, play Xbox. And then each night I would stay up just a little bit later until I was exhausted so I didn't have to lay in bed and think about stuff. And eventually I was staying up until 11 o'clock in the morning and then sleeping all day. The actual plane crash kept going through my head, the image of Ryan burning to death. He looked so much like David that I couldn't get that image out of my head. I feel like we lost part of the Give a Damn team even though I had just met those guys. It made me deal with life and death issues even though that's always been something on the forefront of my brain. It made me scared of dying. I got more and more dependent upon the Xanax. At first I just took a little bit at nighttime, and then my doses progressively got stronger and stronger. Eventually I started to confront them. I watched the plane crash footage over and over again to the point where it wasn't as scary anymore, and it was more of I could talk about it like it happened to somebody else rather than the traumatic experience that it was. And it really got me started thinking about everything that I'd seen on the trip. It's easier to not think about stuff. It's just so much more comfortable. But when you finally confront things and stare them head on, it's the real world at that point. And it may be easier to not think about stuff, but you're better off in the end.
So at the GI doctor, we found out that the pill can was still stuck in my small intestines. Why did all this have to happen? You know, why did I have to get in the crash? Why did I have to stay sick? Why did I have to hold up on the movie? You know, why did I lose my passion even before I left on the trip? I'm hoping they're gonna fix the problem. You know, I don't think anything bad's gonna happen, but you know, in the plane crash, I never thought anything bad was gonna happen either.
Start feeling it now.
The number, I think UNAIDS talks of about 32, 33 million people who are diagnosed as HIV, with HIV, stroke AIDS.
Something that we encountered just over and over again was HIV and AIDS, and And it was hard not to meet someone that in some way or another had been affected, either just by losing a family member or someone really close to them, or they even had it themselves. Definitely a sobering reality in the air everywhere that we went. This virus that's just killing a mass amount of people.
It was only in subsequent years that the gravity of the situation emerged in sub-Saharan Africa, where the disease spread like wildfire. While this is not a disease specifically of poverty, it is a disease which poor countries, and particularly the very poorest people living in poor countries, are most exposed to and most vulnerable to and most unable to find treatment.
We met a woman named Mama Alumbe, and she was a nurse. She's constantly testing people and doing all of this counseling to people and explaining how their life is going to change now with AIDS. I kind of was moved to put myself in that situation. I just thought it'd be really interesting to go through the process.
Nervous at all? I was a little bit when she asked if I was, but no, I'm all right.
You told me you have no girlfriend.
No.
Ever in life? You have never had one?
I've had a girlfriend. We've never had sex though.
You are called virgin?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you need to get a girl who is a virgin too. She has to be your friend. You continue until you get married, if God wishes.
Amen.
Yeah, amen.
How long does it take for results?
2 minutes.
And I think we found that the higher the educational level of people, the more responsive they are to these prevention programs. They're less likely to indulge in risky behaviors. It's one thing to put people on treatment. The trouble is that for every 2 people who are starting treatment, another 3 people are being diagnosed as HIV positive. So the train is accelerating faster than we are able to catch up with it at the moment. I mean, I think we're closing the gap, but not fast enough.
And funny enough, I went to a village in the center of Tanzania where I found the young men from 24 onwards using the black plastic bag as condom. And they were using it, washing it, and reusing it. And when somebody has a condom, they see it very precious. They have to wash it, and he hires it for you for 5,000. And you have to use it only once. He stays nearby to see you don't repeat the act.
There's definitely a big stigma just against getting tested for HIV and even knowing your status, just because people are so scared that they'll find out that they have it, and then even like if they're in line at a testing clinic, they don't want other people to see them thinking that they might have it because they know that they'll be treated differently. And so a lot of times people just try to live in denial and try to avoid the reality of HIVs. I think that is changing, and there are a growing number of testing centers and more education out about how knowing your status can actually save your life if you get on medicine.
I'm free.
Keep it up. Give you a big up. You are pure and clean. You are a big... Yeah. This is negative. Woo. You are sweating.
It was really intense for me just sitting in that moment, getting tested. Even though, I was 99% sure that I didn't have AIDS, there's something eerie about that situation of thinking, this could affect every day of the rest of my life if this were positive. And so I really just wanted to go and actually see a story of someone who did have AIDS and what their life looked like just in that reality.
So what is your name?
Ruth Jordan.
Ruth Jordan. And you have 8 children?
Yeah.
Wow. But your husband has passed away? How did he die?
AIDS. He died from AIDS.
AIDS. Did you get it from him?
Yes.
Wow, that's hard.
First of all, she's not the one who looked for it. So she knows very well she's innocent of it.
So is it sometimes hard to take care of your children?
It is very hard because they need to eat, to clothe, to school.
I'm sorry that your husband passed away.
And it wasn't until 1996 that a treatment was developed, which doesn't provide a cure, but it does allow people to lead a fairly normal life and a productive life, but the treatment is not cheap. about 2.3 million people now, primarily, nearly 2 million of those people are living in sub-Saharan Africa, are currently receiving antiretroviral.
With treatment, do the doctors know like how long you will stay alive?
More than 80 years.
More than 80 years.
80.
80.
Yeah.
Oh, you are going to reach 80 years.
Yeah.
But she says it's like they have given her hope that she can just live.
Just seeing Ruth and hearing her story just reminded me of Dan back home and how much I really wanted him to be able to be here, hearing these stories with me like we had planned on for so long.
I think they fixed the problem. The doctor cut out a part of my small intestine, about so many inches. I got a catheter in, I'm peeing right now, and you'd have no idea. I was peeing right now. I don't even know if I'm peeing for sure. I just think I'm peeing. I'm excited. I think I might be better. They found a bunch of scar tissue that was blocking the pill and my food and all that, and they said surgery was the right way to go. And I'm like falling asleep as I talk to you. Being sick and hungry and skinny and like feeling like I'm living in extreme poverty, but in America, was like the suckiest thing. Like I had worked so long fundraising and just told all these people about my trip to Africa, and like it was my whole life was just like devoted to this trip. And then this plane crash like changed everything. David and Tim just Twittered the whole time along their journey and hearing all the cool things they're doing. It was a life lesson, that's for sure.
So the trip's winding down and we're just about to leave Africa. I get this email from Dan and it says that there's one last contact that we have to make. And he starts this email off by saying, David, I found your wife in Africa. So I'm just, like, all right. And so I click on this link to her blog and start reading just about her story and find out that she came from like the second wealthiest county in America or something like that, in Brentwood, Tennessee. She was the valedictorian of her high school class and the prom queen of her high school. And she just left everything that she knew to move to Africa and adopted 14 young girls. And so I had to go and check out this girl's story.
I'm Katie Davis. I'm 21 years old and I live here in Uganda. I run Amazima Ministries, and my full-time occupation is that I'm a mom to 14 little girls. From an early age, people would always ask me, you'd have like career day, what do you want to be when you grow up type thing, and I had always said I wanted to be Mother Teresa just because I guess I just loved her heart for children. So when I was 18, my senior year in high school, Google searched the word orphanage and I applied to about 40, and a baby's home in Jinja called me and said, hey, we got your application, we'd love to have you come volunteer, and they were the first one to get back to me. So I said, okay, let's go. And through teaching kindergarten, I kind of recognized the need there is for free or inexpensive education here, because so many children are orphaned, so many children live with single parents that they can't afford to send all of them to school. And I had in mind that I would send these two little girls from my kindergarten class to school, and called my mom real excited and told her about it. And she said, I would love to send some kids to school. So she took a couple and my grandmother took a couple. Before we knew it, we had 40 kids enrolled, and my first 3 daughters were 3 of those kids. Their parents had died of HIV.
So as we got to spend time with Katie and hear her story, I just had to keep reminding myself to stay focused. David, you're here for business.
So how many kids do you feed about?
11 to 1,200 daily. We started just doing a feeding program for this school where all the kids can come up and eat lunch, and then they take a second plate home with them for dinner, and that also kind of motivates their parents to send them here instead of to the streets.
So I find families in America and then match them to children, and Katie makes pictures and she lets them write letters. They send in $300 a year, and for that each child gets medical treatment, 2 hot meals a day, their school uniforms paid, and books and pencils and all the school supplies that they need.
Lunch. Let me do some research and see if I can't figure out the treatment online, and then I'll be back here tomorrow morning, okay? better, though. They have improved very much. You know, people warn you when you're coming here about the culture shock that you're going to feel, and a lot of times they don't warn you that after being here, you're going to go back and feel so much more culture shock than when you came here. Just even going into the grocery store was like, oh my gosh. You know, in Uganda, a mother has 2 choices of what kind of food she can feed her kid that day, and in America, we have 8 choices of what kind of food we could feed our dogs. And just how spoiled I was. I had a layover in London on my way home and stayed in a hotel where there were like 6 or 7 pillows on the bed. And I just had to cry and cry that there were 6 pillows on the bed for one person, and like, my girls were at home and hadn't even had a pillow for the first 12 years of their life. Because at least here, people are not ignorant to the poverty, and they're not ignorant to what goes on in the world. And I was, and I go back to America and think, you don't know what goes on, or maybe you know in your head, but it's not real. And until it's real in your heart, you can't change the way you live. I feel very blessed to have what most people would consider an abnormal life, because I don't think there's anything better.
People like to talk about poverty and like to talk about all the problems, but no one likes to talk about the hope. It's like, man, those people there, they have AIDS, they have so many problems, and people are just like, man, that's really overwhelming. People start to see them as, you know, a fellow human being instead of an African, then people will start to give a damn. But until then, like, you're not going to care because it's so different. Out of sight, out of mind.
So if I'm poor, it doesn't mean that you have to, to degrade me because I'm poor. If you can help me, but still respect me.
I think that we're seeing this generation question, if I have everything I want and if I'm so comfortable, why am I maybe not so happy?
It's counterintuitive for like any person to, like, when you're suffering, to actually go and serve the other suffering people, but that's the only way that you're gonna ever gain is when you give it all away.
If you are the sort of person who really believes and understands the golden rule and lives by it, you're gonna be a happier, more fulfilled person.
We don't like dirty kids in Africa, but so we want to like pull them out of that. But I think we have to learn to go there and to be there with them, to love them, not love the poverty, but love them.
Everyone is created with certain gifts and a certain level or ability to do something. And so yes, I do think that it is everyone's job to find out what that gift is or what that talent is, be intentional about using that. When that happens, I think the world does change.
Well, if there's a generation who can do it, that's your generation. The older people have major problems to change their lifestyles. And I think it's really about changing lifestyles.
Young people, you still do have the will, and you have the future in your hands. So if you want a better world, you will get it.
You're gonna have the moments when you wanna give up. If you're doing anything that has any purpose or meaning, the odds are against you. But the world needs people like you, so don't give up.
We should all fight the war of poverty. The poor have a responsibility to take initiative, to listen, to take advice that are being given to them. Every human race is responsible for fighting poverty.
All in all, David traveled through 6 countries, encountering life-changing experiences everywhere he went. He got the chance to touch lepers, go on a slave tour.
Man, this is kind of intense. Just sitting here in this room knowing that slaves sat here.
And do one of his favorite things, sing at church. He saw all the typical things like animals,
Those are all ant bodies forming a bridge.
and the physical beauty that people so often come to visit Africa for. But even better, he saw the beauty of the human person.
Mimi MC bado niko za kukajana.
David and Tim eventually returned home from Africa to a large group of friends and local media. David is now going back to school and has launched his own nonprofit, Win the Saints, whose mission is to challenge the Christian church to rise to its potential in the fight against global injustice. Their first mission will be to start a safe home in Africa for victims of sex trafficking. His brother Tim ended up getting a job with George the Shoeman, a man from St. Louis who collects old shoes, sells them, and then uses the money to build wells in Kenya. Rob's post-traumatic stress started to subside as well until it was no longer a daily problem. He eventually went back to work and bought a foreclosed house and is hoping to start rehabbing houses. But in the meantime, has built a Nerf gun battlefield in his backyard dubbed the Thunderdome. I plan to stay in the film industry and continue to make films with my company, Speak Up Productions.
The world is capable of amazing things, and people are awesome. I just got a big sense of hope as we traveled and as we saw all the people that came into our lives and helped us. It restored a lot in me, and kind of a lot of questions that I had as to if the world is capable of really doing good things and caring about each other. It helped me to really believe that.
I mean, money can be really great and is really useful for a lot of organizations doing good things. But a lot of times it's just about giving your time and giving your talent to a cause that really breaks your heart. That if we could connect those who need something to live for, the young people here in the Western world, with those who just need something to live, those living in extreme poverty in places like Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and other places across the world, if we could connect those two needs, the world would change.
I would say what works to fight extreme poverty and injustice is simply, I mean, it's kind of cliche, but just loving the person next to you. Just going out of your way to really live sacrificially, to try to encourage and benefit just everyone around you. Just, being an example of someone who empowers and inspires people.
So is it my responsibility to give a damn? I think it's my responsibility to know what's going on in the world. If you're not paying attention, that's not enough. I think you at least need to educate yourself about something. Pick one thing and read about it. Whether it be Africa, whether it be poverty over here. I think you just need to know what the world is really like. And if you just play video games, watch TV, get obsessed about sports teams, none of these are bad things, but if that's what your life is all about, you just need to find out what really matters. And I think it's people, other people.
I don't need food. There's 9 free food places a day within walking distance of here. I've actually put on about 5 pounds since I've been on the street, see?
glad you guys came.
And I am very sweaty, and I need to open the window right now.
It's
So.
really hot, yeah.
And go.
Would you like to be tested?
For HIV?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Will you get tested? Rob, will you get tested for HIV?
It took about 3 months of convincing my parents that going to an orphanage that you found online was an okay thing to do.